Welcome back to Trending Update USA. This is your host, Steffan, and yes, today I'm here, you're here, and we are diving into a story that has shaken the tennis world emotionally. A story that isn't just about a sport, isn't just about a champion, but about a human being behind the trophies, behind the lights, behind the roaring stadiums. Let's talk about a moment that moved millions. She is a powerhouse, a fighter, the icon of aggression and resilience on court, but even the strongest pillars sometimes crack, even the loudest roars sometimes quiet down, and even champions sometimes whisper through pain. She said the words, "This hurts me deeply." And the silence that followed was heard across the entire tennis universe. In recent days, the world number one from the WTA Tour, Aryna Sabalenka, showcased a side of vulnerability that fans rarely see. The tennis world is built on adrenaline, fierce rivalry, endorsements, fan wars, million-dollar payday headlines, but in this moment, nothing overshadowed the honesty in her voice. To understand the weight of this statement, you must understand the journey. Born in Minsk, Belarus, she was never raised on privilege. She was built by discipline, molded by grief, and refined by resistance. Her father, Sergei Sabalenka, passed away suddenly when she was still a teenager. That loss became the first fracture in her heart, yet at that moment she didn't retreat, she rebuilt. Tennis became both her therapy and her weapon. That's the backdrop that follows her into every press conference, every final point, every emotional collapse that she carefully shields. She trains relentlessly at facilities used by elite players, including time spent at the high-performance center linked to ITF development programs. She sharpened her game with the help of coach collaborations that evolved from junior systems into pro-level strategy camps. The federation structure inside Belarus tennis development isn't as vast as the academies in Florida or Barcelona, yet she carved out her own lane, one brutal swing at a time. Her game style? Ruthless. The kind of serve+1 tennis that intimidates even the calmest opponents. She currently plays with rackets from Wilson, which suit her aggressive baseline storm, and her apparel sponsorship is backed by powerhouse brand partnerships at industry top levels, including long-time association with global sportswear giants. Her name has been placed beside other fireballers of the modern women's game, like Elena Rybakina, Iga Swiatek, Coco Gauff, Naomi Osaka, names that burn bright and clash loud on WTA storylines, but her on-court personality was always described as emotional yet armored, passionate yet dangerous, expressive yet unstoppable. But pain has a strange way of calling truth to the surface. The sad admission didn't come after a loss, it came despite the wins. Despite the ranking. Despite the dominance. Despite the fact that she lifted multiple WTA-level trophies and continues a title streak that makes her the most feared woman in the locker room. Sources inside the tour reveal that the pressure isn't the story, it is the loneliness inside it. The WTA Tour pushes athletes to chase perfection week after week, tournament after tournament, but the schedule itself is a machine. The season takes players from the Asia swing, to Europe clay, to North American hard courts, and into marquee arenas like the WTA Finals held in Riyadh. Riyadh, Saudi Arabia is not just a new chapter for women's tennis, it is an emotional paradox. The city hosted the biggest season finale under massive media focus where players not only represent themselves but become political talking points, representation debates, cultural divide thumbnails for YouTube, and global fan tug-of-war narratives. Riyadh entered tennis history as the centerpiece of the year-ender stage, but for Sabalenka it became a spotlight that burned too close. The sad admission surfaced during a reflective media scrum that followed scrutiny over online hate cycles, social pressure, expectation overload, and comparisons that don't end. Everything from mental resilience debates to sponsorship narrative wars have circled her this season. Yet her sadness statement was not tied to fans, not tied to tennis politics, not tied to rivals, it was tied to something more personal, more human, something existential. She explained that the world sees tennis results, but doesn't see morning breakdowns. The world sees winners, but doesn't see emptiness in hotel rooms. The world sees roar, but doesn't see quiet nights before battle. Sometimes it feels like everyone wants something from me. Everyone, she said, her voice slightly anchored yet trembling. But no one asks what is left inside me. Tennis champions live between cities, flights, physiotherapy check-ins, sponsor shoots, meet and greets, and constant adrenaline demands from fans and federations alike. She has battled emotional lows before. There were tears at multiple majors, most notably controversial semi-final collapses, and emotional finals dust-ups. But this one was different. This one wasn't loud. This one was quieter, deeper, and a lot sadder because nothing provoked it externally. It was internal architecture collapsing slowly, like ice melting from inside a steel shell. Her story now echoes something bigger happening across sport. The rise of raw transparency in athletes. We saw it recently in Simone Biles stepping back mid-Olympic spotlight. We saw it in Naomi Osaka taking mental health leave during peak career praise. We see it now in Sabalenka. The stigma of emotional exposure is dying, not slowly anymore, it is burning down fast. Fans don't want robotic winners, they want people they can feel. People who bleed like them, panic like them, hurt like them, rise like them. Sabalenka has always worn her emotions outward, yet selectively. But this moment? There was no separator between the soul and the camera lens. Her press conference took millions by storm online, sparking trending searches across YouTube, X, formerly Twitter, Instagram Reels, TikTok stitches, Reddit threads, fan open letters, and support waves worldwide. The tennis community didn't shame her, they shielded her. Former champions and rivals alike sent warm public messages, including statements from players like Madison Keys and Jessica Pegula who emphasized that Sabalenka isn't alone in the unseen pressure arena. Pegula and Sabalenka have met many times on tour, including key finals and semi-final clashes at major WTA 1000 battlefields. Jessica Pegula, backed by coaching direction from David Witt Tennis, understands expectation stress from both ranking pressure and family business visibility. Madison Keys, coached by Lindsay Davenport in earlier career chapters, has also spoken publicly about emotional endurance challenges. Elena Rybakina has described the WTA court pressure as a silent storm. Iga Swiatek works closely with a sports psychology support structure and has openly promoted athlete mental health awareness across tour. And Coco Gauff? One of the most compared against athletes in videos involving Sabalenka dominance metrics recently, sparking debate cycles that often forget the human. Coco Gauff is coached at tour level by Brad Gilbert, whose coaching legacy includes associations with past champions like Andre Agassi. Gauff is represented by multiple brand partnerships and lives under the same expectation cycle that Sabalenka now admits is heavy enough to crack steel. The tennis schedule magnifies everything. It magnifies wins, it magnifies losses, it multiplies voices, it amplifies sponsors, it exaggerates rivalries, it forces storytelling into binary celebrations and villain episodes. Yet tennis careers are played not just on stadium surfaces but inside minds. And the minds suffer long before racket arms tire. Sabalenka's sad admission triggered not only empathy but discourse. Sports psychologists, media critics, tennis analysts, and longtime WTA observers describe this as one of the most honest confessions of a world number one ever recorded in a non-retirement reflection cycle. Because she didn't quit. She didn't step back. She exposed her heart while still holding the crown on her head. That matters. That matters socially, mentally, culturally, digitally. Vulnerability without surrender is resonance, not defeat. Her ranking dominance on the WTA Tour has been anchored by style that includes historically one of the fastest average ball striking metrics in the top 10, a top 3 ace count across season charts, and a first serve aggression rate regarded among tour elites. She is statistically a monster. But the monster has a heart. She revealed feelings of detachment from moments that were supposed to feel fulfilling. Even lifting trophies felt numbing at times. When asked how she balances joy and pressure, she admitted that sometimes joy doesn't arrive, not because pressure stole it, but because grief still takes seats at her internal table. She also mentioned the emotional toll of global scrutiny shining brighter than national pride discussions about Belarus athletes during sensitive global news cycles involving country representation. She expressed sadness while recalling moments of career critique involving national symbol conversations during big matches against Ukrainian players at tour level earlier seasons. These conflicts often didn't involve the athletes personally, yet athletes were placed in emotional gladiator arenas for fan wars they didn't start. She said, "I sometimes wish I could just play tennis without carrying every headline. I wish I could just breathe in the day without being told I must dominate night charts, morning charts, engagement charts, rivalry debates, representation wars, national tension screens. I sometimes wish I was just a tennis player, not a trending topic engine." Fans loved her for her roar, but now they love her for her honesty too. The tennis community united not in shock, but solidarity. The moment also credited audience admiration waves toward her recent sportsmanship gestures at net handshakes supporting unity themes across the WTA Tour. Following the viral sadness statement, platforms shared footage of Sabalenka practicing again only 48 hours later. No break. No quit. No retreat. Just presence. That presence inspired a new trending wave online titled, "Vulnerability is the New Power Move," which trended across sport commentary channels globally. Online sport editors have collectively described this era of tennis as the transition from gladiator mythology into human storylines that audiences emotionally invest in long after match points end. Her sad admission also overlaps timing of major tennis calendar pressures in late season 2025, where she was defending points at multiple high-value tournaments. Rankings defense cycles are emotional physics equations. Lose too early, and your ranking doesn't just drop mathematically, it drops narratively, commercially, psychologically, socially. It is emotional compound interest, without consent. Sabalenka also described communication burnout. When an athlete has a stoic day, fans call it cold. When an athlete has a loud day, they call it dramatic. When an athlete shows vulnerability, sometimes they call it weak, but this time? They called it real. And real is finally winning culturally. The statement indirectly aligns with advocacy waves supported by athlete mental health conversation push across major sport leagues including tennis. Players like Osaka and Swiatek have already kickstarted this wave, but when number one ranking champions step into vulnerability, it sets a different tone across sport hierarchies. Media critics also pointed out that tennis culture has historically rewarded emotional expression only when attached to dominance or defeat, but not when attached to humanity alone. That binary is now being rewritten socially, not statistically. Sabalenka now continues preparation for upcoming 2026 scheduling cycles involving season openers likely beginning in Australia, swing contested under structures governed by Tennis Australia, hosting major events supported by the Australian Open, held in Melbourne Park, Melbourne, Australia. She has historically showcased emotional tennis moments during this swing too, including tearful interviews. But this season reflection is not earlier heartbreak. This is new heartbreak sprouting inside success. Her sad admission also triggered sponsorship commentary conversations involving athlete expectation cycles. When you represent giant brands, you also represent corporate narrative expectations. While she did not directly blame sponsors, she said that endorsement expectations sometimes make her feel like she is playing for billboards and not breathing for herself at times. She remains sponsored by giant apparel houses historically tied to champion aura marketing campaigns in sport. Sports business analysts reported spikes in discussion around athlete identity versus sponsor narrative ownership, triggered by the timing of Sabalenka's statement. Yet here is what matters above all: she didn't ask to be saved, she asked to be understood. And tennis finally understood. Her voice joined the list of athlete voices redefining strength, not by perfection but by confession, perseverance, and presence while still crowned champion. We are witnessing a generational rewrite. And before I close, remember this: tennis players don't retire because their arms break. Most often they retire when their souls ask them to finally stop being armor. This time her soul spoke, but the armor stayed, still holding the racket. Sabalenka didn't fall. She just let us hear the impact of flying while still ascending. And that kind of honesty, That kind of honesty changes the sport forever without needing a trophy as punctuation. Because sometimes the deepest wins don't echo at stadium match points, they echo in quiet confessions said into the mic, while still holding the crown.